Welcome to the recording. This is Rick DiClemente hosting the new show called Astrology Unplugged. I'm an astrologer out of the Pittsburgh area. This is about our third week, and tonight we are going to focus completely on Donald Trump's chart because he is so important in the world figure right now. We want to talk about what makes this man tick, and I'm sure all of you scratch every brain cell you have when you try to figure out this personality, because he really is certainly extremely unusual. A couple things: if you would like a printout of his chart to go along with tonight's discussion, down in the mute area, hi Nancy, down in the mute area, in the chat area, you'll see I gave you the URL so you can go print out that chart, which is Star Self, my website, starself.com/back/Donald, /Trump.bmp. So it's all written down there in the chat area. Most of this will be me talking. There may be time later on for some questions. This is an extremely complicated chart. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to try not to be, hi Susan, try not to be too technical, but sometimes you just have to be. We've got 3 or 4 astrologers, I see that, and I'm very glad to have you. If we got a limit of 100 people, if people start to scroll off your screen, you will be able to scroll those people left and right in case you want to. Hi, Marilyn. In case you want to see certain people. I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody's audio except mine. All right. Okay, so we're going to get started. All right. Now, I'm going to share my screen, and do you all see, I can just see some of you now, but do you see Donald Trump's chart? Shake your head up and down. You can see it? All right. Now we're going to start out very basic, and I know a lot of you have no idea how to look at a chart, but I'm going to try to explain it. This is an accurate chart from his birth certificate, and charts are based upon your birth time. Donald is a Gemini. He was born on June the 14th in 1946. He was born approximately 10:54 in the morning. When you say approximately, nobody knows. When you get down to 1 or 2 minutes, nobody knows how exact it is because of what is it, the umbilical cord being cut? Is it the first breath? What counts as being born? But we know this is within 1 or 2 minutes in Queens, New York. So your details are right there in case you want to do your own chart. And like I said, you can just print it from my link. All right, now, this is a very good example of why none of you should take your sun sign very seriously. Because this man is a Gemini, and he's actually a very good example of a Gemini, but he's so extremely beyond Gemini, and he's so excessively beyond what a typical Gemini is. I've been talking lately that I think sun signs are kind of like what shoes you wear. So if I'm a Capricorn, other Capricorns have Capricorn shoes on, and about the rest of us is about that much different. You might be a Virgo and have similar qualities, but then there may be many, many qualities that you have that are different than what the books say and what what other books say. I want to mention before I forget, our book, which is The Exquisite Zodiac, is 5 years old now. It's about how the sun signs are blended together. One changes into the next. The book has just been released for free. in the electronic version. So if you want an electronic PDF format, you can go to our website, which is starself.com, and you can get the book for free by clicking on that. Also, if you would like a paper copy, many people like that for a reference copy in their purse. You can still buy it, and the link is provided to buy the physical book for $9.99. Okay, back to the chart. I'm going to take my time. This is very complex and it's very easy to lose the crowd. When you have a Gemini, and this is one of the things I said when I wrote the book, Gemini men are different than Gemini women. They are. It's true. One of the main reasons that I wrote this book is I wanted to know more about Gemini because my mother was a Gemini. And please silence your phones. Thank you very much. Or silence your microphone.
Hello. It's for you.
Okay. Please have them all silenced. All right. Well, I was trying to figure out through my life why my mother would seem one way, then she would seem another way. Hi, Chuck. Good to see you. And I went into deep study of the sign of Gemini. And my question became, why are they two people? When you read everywhere, they're two people. And you talk to all these famous astrologers and read all these books that have been around forever, and they all tell you they're two people because they're two people. Well, that tells you nothing. And when I came in the house as a young man, I didn't know if Gemini Mother 1 was there or Gemini Mother 2 was there. But it is definitely true. They are like two different personalities. They are not split personalities, but they are like two different people. And they do switch back and forth, which you can see with Trump. And I put a tremendous amount of work trying to get a satisfactory answer to why are Gemini the twins. As you know, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury has two moons. One is Phobos, and one is, I forget. What? Deimos. Deimos and Phobos? That doesn't sound right.
Rick, you're thinking of Mars with the moon. Mercury doesn't have moons.
Okay, what am I thinking of? Yeah, you're right. You're right there. I am thinking of Mars, getting confused with that. Never mind.
Two M's. That's
yeah, well, I'm 0 for 1 so far. Anyhow, what I was getting from, I would call advanced astrologers, they would just tell me that Geminis just are two people. Well, what you find with Geminis, and there's a very strong tendency, and this is very normal with Gemini, is Phobos. Is Geminis objectify people in the room with them. They talk about you as if you're an object. This doesn't mean they're being demeaning, but they can go from being very subjective, hey buddy, want something neat, how about a beer, whatever, and all of a sudden they'll objectify you. You go from subject to object. This is very, very common with Geminis. I've dug way deep into it. I've explained it in the Exquisite Zodiac. I'm not going to say much about it other than the fact that Gemini is an early sign, and Gemini is all about jumping over the next fence. What's the next thing? This is boring here. Over the next fence, surely things will be interesting. Let's go over the next fence. Surely things will be interesting. It's the one sign that really gets bored easily because they kind of live in the future. All right. So, I'm going to put that on hold for a while because that's a very complex subject. And what you see with a Gemini personality is they're a very young spirit. The early signs of the zodiac in general have a younger spirit than the later signs of the zodiac seem to have an older spirit. Doesn't mean more advanced, more mature, nothing like that. This is all completely explained slowly in the exquisite zodiac. But what Gemini is here to do, being the first air sign, air is mind and communication. What they're here to do is discover. Oh, I can think. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. They're traditionally known as being very young looking. You can even see that youthful look even in somebody like Michael J. Fox, who has his illness. You can still see the youth. You can see the youth in Christy Brinkley. You can see the youth in the 99-year-old Bob Hope. You can see it all throughout. People will say about an athlete, boy, he's got a baby face. How can he be pitching in the big leagues? And you look, and he looks much younger than he is. This is because the person is a young spirit. Now, where the women differ from the men, the women usually are much more critical. They will snap your head off with something sharp and then say something kind and fun, whereas the Gemini men are most of the time kind of evenly balanced, and they're fun and they're lighthearted, but the Gemini women will be noticed as being different. They will go from one mood to another, and drastic mood switches is very common with the sign of Gemini. So the main thing about Gemini is they are explorative, they're into information, and one of the things that's really common about them that's very important, they are naturally evasive. Watch Bob Dylan. Did you ever see an interview with Bob Dylan? He will not give you a straight answer. He is the trickster. Did you ever get an interview with Paul McCartney? Another Gemini, the trickster. And boy, if you don't see the trickster look in the expressions in Donald Trump and in McCartney and in Dylan, then I don't know what you see. So part of the trickster is they like to needle you and kind of play games with you. And part of that, a large part of that, they don't want you to discover that they're not deep. The traditional Gemini, and I'm not talking about all the Geminis you know, traditional Gemini is horizontal. They're not only just horizontal. They do not go deep. Some of them can. It depends on the rest of the chart. But most of them would rather dive and go deep into a subject. They want to go along the surface like a skitter bug. Okay? The signs that go deep are Aquarius and Scorpio. So when we look into Donald's chart, we see that his sun is in Gemini, and we see that the sun is found next to Uranus. Well, Uranus is only 5 degrees away, and when you have Uranus by the sun in Gemini, now you're picking up completely different energies. You've got the sun in Gemini, which is kind of lightheartedly flirting around with details, but Uranus coming next to it gives it the Aquarian flavor, because Uranus rules Aquarius. Now you've got the eccentric, you've got the inventor, you've got the I'm going to do anything I want to do, you've got the hard-headedness of Aquarius, all bets are off, I'm going to do it my way, and you've got the absolute genius. Whenever you got Uranus, you've got potential genius, but you've also got the potential for it to become uncorrallable. You can't corral it. And when you're given a sun sign to start with, like Gemini, which is known for not having much of a center, not much of a core to begin with, and you put it next to this lightning storm of Uranus, this is one reason his mind just flies from here to there, to there, to there, to there, to there. He's really quick. His mind thinks, when he says, don't worry about it, I got it, I'll take care of it. He means to tell you, I dance when people are shooting revolvers. I will take care of it at the last second. I'll think of something. He thinks on his feet. much to the chagrin for the people that are trying to manage his campaign, I'm sure. So on one hand, you've got a really brilliant mind. On the other hand, you've got one of the key phrases of Gemini is, why not? Try it. Why not? And what does Uranus say sitting next to it? Hey, let's try something crazy. Gemini says, why not? Well, I don't have to show you where that's at. You know, to get where he's at, he's had to do a lot of that. So you see, just with the sun next to Uranus, you see a picking up from the Aquarian traits. You see a eccentric life, eclectic life, impossible to follow, totally unique, want to do things his way.
I'm going to get these things.
So the next thing we bring in.
All right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Anne Marie, we're going to need you to mute your audio, please. Hi, Arnold. Okay, so we go back to the chart. So you could have a Gemini that's that simple and no more, and that's it. Most Geminis are not that fascinating compared to Donald Trump. Most anybody isn't. But we got a long way to go. So we go back to his chart. We pick up the third factor that's critical is his moon's over in Sag. Now, his moon is in Sag. The moon is all by itself. And the moon is opposite at 21 degrees. The moon is opposite the sun, born during a full moon. This was not an eclipse. He was born during a full moon. And the moon is opposite Uranus. So now things have really become complicated because the sun is opposite the moon. Uranus is opposite the moon. Whenever Uranus is opposite a planet at birth, there's a very strong tendency for that other planet to pick up brilliance from it. Think of Uranus as just shooting lightning bolts at you with marvelous, unpredictable brilliance and genius. But it's very hard to contain it because it comes so fast. Flashes of intuition. So here's his sun and moon with Uranus involved in both. Sun, moon, sun, Uranus, moon. So his two main planets are heavily affected by Uranus. Now, Uranus has a tremendous side to it that I wouldn't call evasive, but Uranus sure can't stand being trapped. And if there's anything in astrology that can't stand being trapped, it's the sun in Gemini and its Aquarian qualities. The sun in Gemini can't stand being trapped because it wants to be free to explore. Uranians or Aquarians, they can't stand being trapped because they're all about free spirits. And here you put it together with the moon in Sag, and the moon in Sag can't stand being trapped. So you've got this extremely strong theme of his sun, his Uranus, and his moon that will not be trapped. You will not hold him down. I don't care if I said that on videotape or not. I didn't say it. I didn't mean it. It was joking. This is where he gets it from. This is also where he gets this swinging one side to the other and the chameleon going back and forth and back and forth. Now, I'm going to tell you, when you got something this strong and we're only looking at 3 planets, not the 11, this is very hard to contain. So the personality can split into pieces, and I'm sure you've all run across people that talk to you. They talk about this, they talk about this, they talk about that, and you're going like this, where are you going? This is what happens. They've got these same energies, but they don't have anywhere to anchor it. Very important. This is all going to build up. Okay, now when you put the moon in place, here's what becomes critical. There are about 3 really critical things. The moon is extra powerful because it's all by itself. This is called a bucket pattern. Everything's all together, fanned out. The moon is by itself. When the moon is by itself, yes, the moon in Sagittarius becomes very strong, but the moon itself becomes strong, and that makes him very lunar. He becomes very Cancerian. Moon-like, Cancerian. This is really critical in his personality. Then, what else do we see? We see Venus next to Saturn. Venus next to Saturn is how you allow people in. Are you charming? Do you allow people into your heart? Do you allow them into your foyer, but not into the house? Do you allow them in, but then you're scared and you make them stay outside? Venus-Saturn is very, very common with people, and I see it all the time. It's very common with people that treat you like this. I don't want you getting too close. But what I'm getting at here is Mr. Trump has a tremendous amount of Cancerian energy, which I find is the root of the problem in the chart. The Venus-Saturn is, I'm not going to let you in because you're going to hurt me. I don't care what you say. I can feel it. Mama told me you're going to hurt me. It takes a tremendous strength of will to overcome this. And this was just hit in his chart recently, in the last month. And I thought it would be strong enough to make him withdraw, but I was wrong. You got the moon by itself. You got the Venus, Saturn, and Cancer. So you have great Cancerian abilities. Now we're going to get back to this in a minute because there's a lot to talk about with the Cancer energy. So now you've got this flipped, smart, wandering, vagabond, do anything, brilliant, unpredictable Gemini Sag, on top of this very emotional, do you love me? Did you treat me right? Did mommy give me what I needed? Cancer energy, when it falls towards its shadow side, is about, I didn't get what I needed. Or it can be. So I tell my students, use a little brush when you're painting these charts. You're not going to open up these charts and it's going to tell you the story. Paint with little strokes and the story will start to gather through time. Or else you'll have a mud pie. All right, so let's go back to his chart. You'll notice some of these themes are themes you know, people. Some of these themes are in play in your chart. The problem you have is you don't have the ability yet to weight it. A good astrologer can weight it. You can say, this part's not that much. This part weighs more than you think. This part is significant. That part's really the story. That takes 6 years of experience. But you'll start to see some themes that you have in people in your own family that have these qualities. All right. So you see he's got the brilliance of the sun Uranus. This is all in the 10th house, which is, these houses are determined, houses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are all determined by the birth time, but this is the house of the world. This is his worldly position. So you can see that out there in the world, he's known as being very unpredictable. This can frankly be somebody with a loud mouth, really a daring mouth, shocking things come out of his mouth. And when you look to calm him down, you don't see a moon in Capricorn or a moon in Taurus to calm him down and center him. You see a moon in Sag. So this guy thinks up crazy stuff and the moon says, do it. Hey, look about this. Well, do it. Don't worry about it. So he's got this wild tendency, and we're going to get to what makes him tick deeper here in just a second. Now, one of the most marvelous things that he has is this very rare triplet. This is called a stellium of 3 planets. when three planets are together in the sign of Libra: Neptune, Chiron, and Jupiter. They were there up together around 1945, and I'm sure, I don't know enough about this, I'm sure they had a lot to do with the ending of World War II. They're very good planets. They have very high dimension. They're very godlike. They're very spiritual-like. They were in the sign of Libra, which is about let's repair our society. There are a lot of really good things about that stellium. People only in 45 and 46 were born with this. Now, not all people could manifest that energy, but you had people like Stephen Stills, Neil Young, Van Morrison, people with magical, absolutely magical abilities musically. You had Bob Marley, you had Clapton, Stills, Tommy Lee Jones. These people have a charisma. Sally Field, Susan Sarandon, Helen Mirren. I just picked a few off the top. These people have this beautiful, magical thing, and I can't think of anything better to tell you than watch how a song just jumps off the fretboard of Stephen Stills. It's just flowery, and it just comes right out. And I don't have to tell you about Neil or about Van Morrison, how wonderful they are. So Mr. Trump, it's not always musical. Mr. Trump has this ability in his chart. This makes him very artistic in his own way, and I would say in a social sense. He can smooth his way through anything. Very strong, very powerful. Now, who's the BSer of the zodiac? Not always. I really don't want to make any enemies, but who's the BSer of the zodiac? The moon in Sag. The moon in Sag are strong Sag energies. If they're not expressed correctly, they can become promise and don't deliver, promise and don't deliver. They can become used car salesmen. This is where Trump gets the label of being the BSer, the big talker, the big tails, is largely because it's pumping through that moon in Sag. Well, take a look at how strong that is. You see all this tension, even though this is just Sun Uranus. Uranus is a planet that creates tremendous of tension, and the Sun is very restless, and they're both expressing powerful energy down to that moon, and that moon is just down there dancing. And I keep seeing the symbol of the cowboy shooting at your boots saying, dance, boy, dance, boy, dance. This is how he likes it. He likes being on the edge. So it's very hard when you have a sun moon in these mutable signs and Uranus there. It's very, very hard for this personality to be centered, to make promises, to deliver on the promises, to be steady, to be regulated. This is a fly-by-night type of person. So you're starting to take shape here with why the personality. Hello, Gina.
Hi.
You're starting to see why. You're starting to see why he has this flipped out type of label. Let alone, did you ever watch his face? I mean, neutrally, this man has 6,000 facial looks. Look at the still pictures. I mean, you'll see anywhere from very professional to clown-like. It's very rubbery. That's the changeability of the Gemini and the moon in Sagittarius. Now, is this making sense so far? Let's all go, yeah. Okay. This means yes. Yeah. Okay. Now, not everybody that has Sun, Uranus, and Gemini, opposite of moon and Sag, becomes off the wall. Some people I've seen with that can become tremendous communicators, tremendous teachers. They can go very far in life. But that's why the most underrated planet in astrology is Saturn. If you don't have a strong Saturn in your chart, you can't whip it. You can't control it. You can't itemize it. You can't conquer it. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, everybody. But Geminis and Sagittarius both are known for their shadow side of not having a center. There's no center. And I've been saying all along, people are doing all this critique, and the social pundits are just trying every piece of the vocabulary they can to describe Mr. Trump. And the answer is there's no center. There's nobody home. He's not there. He has ideas, and they fly through his head, and they're opportunists, but he doesn't have a central hub like building a Christmas tree and putting all your pieces together on an artificial tree. He doesn't have a center. He's not made to have a center. Remember, once again, what Gemini and Sag are about is not about centering. They're about going out and exploring. Going out and exploring. Do this, do that, do this. And you see all these people talking about his inability, that they're calling it ADHD. His inability to hold his concentration level. Okay, whatever you call it. But it's because he's so restless, etc. Now, we're going to get down to some good stuff now. All right. So we see a 10th house that is, he's very much a public figure. He's not afraid to be controversial. He's a communicator. He's got this very unusual, powerful moon, which is all about the mother, and we're going to come back to this. He's got this very charming and very rich set of resources, second house. I don't care if it's real or not. Neptune always makes you wonder, is it real or is it not? Neptune is in the second house. And there's this constant theme with him that his deep pockets and his deep resources, are they really there or aren't they? We don't know. Okay. So what's so powerful? We're getting to the last two things that are really powerful. Number two, the critical thing is the Mars sits right in Leo on the ascendant. Now, in astrology, the ascendant and the descendant and the midheaven and the nadir, these lines are like the kites, like the strips of wood on a kite. They are the cross that holds the kite together. They are totally given to us by the birth time. The birth time is unbelievably important. Now, if that Mars were down below the descendant or above the descendant, it would be weaker. But that Mars is born right on the ascendant, and that Mars is really strong. Mars is the masculine part of all of us. It's the part that says, I want something, I'm going to go do it, I'm going to do it. Well, if your Mars is strong, you go do it, you go do it. Sometimes it's too strong, you get obnoxious, heavy-handed. Sometimes it's too weak. Hey, could I have a Twinkie? Yeah, I wouldn't mind having a Twinkie. What do you think? His Mars is in Leo on the ascendant, which means I'm just going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to build the wall, and you're going to pay for it. It's ballsy. Leo energy is, the key word for Leo is I do. What they say they're going to do, they do it. You ever know Leo friends and they talk big, and you turn around and look and they're actually doing what they said they're going to do? That's a Leo trait. So now you've got this excitable, non-centered personality of all that Gemini Sag, that's bouncing all over the place with all these brilliant ideas and some crazy ideas. You've got this charming Jupiter, Neptune, Chiron in the second house, which has this kind of magical way to get a hold of resources. You got people pinning into the wall, and then you focus it all through the Mars and Leo. By God, I'll show you a way to do it, and I'll just do it. I will claim to you that 80% of his followers, in my opinion, follow him because he seems so strong. He seems strong. Hitler seems strong. Trotsky seems strong. People with Taurus energy, strong, fixed energy, because there's no wavering. When they say they're going to do it, they're going to do it. And boy, that overwhelms most of us, which are kind of, well, I'm kind of like to do this, maybe, sort of. You think, where's the application? No, not with him. I'm going to do it. Beside that, you're paying for it. Ooh, that's strong. When the country is really, really weak and getting weaker all the time, it was awful beneficial to have somebody swooped off of the set of The Apprentice. Well, he was busy firing people. Oh, now we'll be okay. He's going to go, Obama, you're fired. That's it. Everything's solved. Hey, I'll get behind him. Dangerous, dangerous. Now, there may be some things he's going to do that are wonderful. I don't think so. I think it's all talk, in my opinion. I look through his history of not paying people, his history of offending everybody, his history of backtracking out of everything. It's all in the charts. But I'm not his judge. I'm going to give you an astrological perception on him. But the Mars and Leo, here's the problem with Leo planets. If you know any Leos, or people with strong Leo energies, the more you blow on them, the bigger they get. Look at the little Venus in Leo rising in W's chart. George W. Bush had the Venus-Pluto in Leo rising. Well, the more you challenged him, and he really was a little boy inside, but the more you challenged him, the more he puffed up and said, I'll show you. What did he say to the UN? Bring it on. I mean, totally humiliated the whole Western world. Leo planets get bigger when you mess with them. The worst thing that all these authors can be doing is keep attacking this guy, trying to show him facts, trying to show him where he screwed up. This is what he feeds off of. This is what makes him bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The way you defeat Trump is you turn the cameras off. He's totally addicted to the camera. Totally. Donald Trump is an opportunist of himself. He's an opportunist of anything near him. I saw him in a rally once and somebody walked by with one of his books and he was talking to somebody. He interrupted and reached outside the little formation there and just grabbed that book and said, oh, see that book? He's looking for opportunities at all times to further himself. Well, you got to ask yourself, having a psychologist here like Nancy Hoffman, you got to ask yourself, what makes a personality so desperately trying to further himself at every turn? Was really obvious. And now we're down to the heart of the chart. In my opinion, the center of the chart is the Venus, Saturn, Cancer. I'm not an expert on Mr. Trump's childhood, but I don't need to be because it's so obvious to me that the Venus and Saturn is the key to the chart. Now, remember, that the Gemini Sag has evasive qualities to it. Venus, Saturn, and Venus, Saturn, and Cancer is very touchy. Does anybody love me? I don't think they love me. Do they treat me fair? What is he talking about all the time? They treat me fair. You don't treat me fair. They treat me fair. They don't treat me fair. I'll come if you treat me fair. When do you hear a president or candidates talking like a 3-year-old? You don't treat me fair, I'm not coming. You're not invited. You keep your company. Your company is not invited to my speech. It's all a little boy screaming to be treated fair. And it's all covered up with all this slick Sagittarian talk and all this charming Libra that he's got in his planets. Donald Trump is, in my opinion, has nothing to do with his mother. In my opinion, it has to do with his past life and many, many past lives. Donald Trump is a very, very bruised little boy. What is he screaming when he's screaming? He's not screaming about a wall. He's not screaming about Republicans. He's screaming because nobody will listen to him. What does the baby scream for in the crib? Somebody come pick me up. That's Donald Trump. Period. Wham! Now, when you get to the negative side of Cancer, remember he's got a moon bucket pattern and he's got Venus next to Saturn. Now, when you get to the dark side of Cancer, and I've given this a lot of thought since my book was published, you get into, I didn't get what I need. You're not getting what you need. I'm going down. You're going down first and faster. That's the problem with the chart. It's got this screw you mentality. It's dangerous because there's no sign in the zodiac that takes things more personally than the sign Cancer. It just does. You were here supposed to take care of me and you didn't, and boy, I'll get you and I'll show you and I don't care what happens to the rest of it. That's the trouble with this. Now, he can get some positive qualities out of it, but when you start piling everything up, what you have here is this unpredictable, that's all the Uranus, Sun, Moon, this blabbermouth, which is a Mars and Leo, just going to talk, and the flames are going to come across you until you're just burnt from listening. But he's got that ability to shake up the masses, which is the 3 charming planets in Leo. But he's an opportunist. He knows how to tell you what you think you need to hear so you'll get on board. There's every indication that if you start following him, he's not going to give you anything that he has promised. He's already changed his tune 45 times with immigration. What topic has he not changed his tune with? None. Gemini Sag, in many ways, in most ways, not always, cannot take a position. They cannot take a position. Can't do it. Because to take a position is like sticking a needle in a butterfly's wing. You've all seen butterflies on the board, and that's how they display them. To get a needle through your wing means the butterfly can't fly anymore. That's why the Gemini doesn't take a position. It's not mature enough to take one yet. Sag doesn't take a position either. They are very opinionated and they're very political and they're much more advanced, but they're very nervous about taking positions too because they're very much known for promising and not delivering. How many of you have had Sages in your life that promised you stuff and consistently did not deliver? How many? 1, 2, okay, 1 or 2. Well, I could raise my hand at 75 times for all of you. It's a very common thing. Sag is a wonderful sign, but it's got to be harmonized with the rest of the planets. Gemini is a wonderful sign. It's got to be harmonized. But when you got a guy whose sun next to Uranus, who are both opposite the moon. The moon is so troubled. The moon is in charge of this chart. And in my next book, I'm thinking about doing a whole chapter or two just on the moon, because the moon is crazy. The moon is crazy. How many of you have families where I said in the Exquisite Zodiac, you have families where there's a lunar person, maybe it's a Cancer, maybe it's somebody with strong moon aspects, where you got to dance around them all the time. Uncle Charlie, we got to keep Uncle Charlie happy. We don't talk about that around Uncle Charlie. Well, Uncle Charlie needs a ride. Well, Uncle Charlie doesn't like this food. And the whole family has to just constantly tiptoe around this person. You just got to keep doing it. And they keep everybody playing this game. That's what Trump does. Now, when you look at his chart, it's much more complex than this. When his moon's not happy, and he perceives that you have treated him unfairly, and the Venus, Saturn in Cancer says, oh, and the Mercury in Cancer, you have screwed him, you have hurt his feelings, then what's going to come get you? Boom! The Mars and Leo is going to come get you. He's going to show you. The Uranus will think up something wild and crazy because it's so inventive, but the Mars and Leo is going to show you the audacity of what you have done to him. He's going to make you pay. And that's why the vitriol comes out so strong until the next day, and he gets all the static, and then he calms down, and then he didn't mean it. Then he issues another proclamation, and then he watches his teleprompters. And then they think, oh, then the idiot press thinks, oh, we've got him calmed down. We've got a calm GOP candidate now, which lasts about 3 hours, and then it goes back off again. You're not going to stop this explosive mentality. It's just not going to happen. Now, the interesting thing is when he gets in trouble, what does he do? He attacks other people. This is his bailiwick. This is his thing. This seems to work. It's sad that he seems to be corralling and compiling and gathering the rest of the country's hatred as a weapon. I mean, that's not really functional or healthy. But that's what he does. He gets in trouble, so he attacks Hillary or he attacks whomever. It's all based upon the Venus Saturn being hurt. It's all based on it being hurt. And if I'm hurt, somebody hurt, and somebody's going to pay. Now, I don't see any reason at this point, if you need any clarification on what I've brought up, any questions you'd like, just unmute yourself and ask your question. But first question is, do you see basically the dynamic that's in the whole chart? I know Nancy does. I know Susan does. Pat? I think Pat sees it. Anybody else? Do you see the dynamics? Do you need a certain part of the chart explained to you? It's the perfect storm that creates somebody like Donald Trump. Do you see how he even says the Donald? He objectifies himself. He actually makes money off of making himself into an object. That's why it can't be warm to you or come through to you. Everything is an object to him. Everything. There is no center. And that's why he can say anything. Yes, Karen, go ahead and Karen was up first. Go ahead and ask your question.
I live with somebody that does some of this. When you get in trouble, you blame other people.
Right.
And you said that's the Venus Saturn?
That's part of it, and also the Mars and Leo.
Okay.
You got to be very careful with Leo energy. The books are not ballsy enough to tell you, but when Leo energy is out of whack, Leo lives off of you being put down. You got to watch Leo energy. Could be wonderful, fabulous energy. But when it's whacked out, Leos live off of you being weak. They live off of it. And look around, you'll see this. And many, many Leos I know are wonderful, fabulous people. But this Leo part that I'm discussing is true. What is your point, Karen?
I know. I just needed to try to understand.
Yeah, that's what it is. Nancy, you had a question?
Yeah. You know, his ascendant with that Mars sitting on it is at 2955 of
Right.
Leo. The
Right.
anaretic degree, the very last degree of Leo. Just last week, Frank Clifford had an article in the ESAR Journal about the 0 degrees and the 29.
Right.
And he said the 29, like you're finishing that sign, it's your last chance. And there he is, throwing it all out there. It's his last chance to be the king of the world, the center of the universe. You know, and I wondered what you thought about that last degree.
First of all, it's the anaretic degree, which is the last degree. Secondly, it makes, you know, you can never tell if anybody's born at 29:55.
Right, it could be.
That ascendant changes every 3 minutes and 55 seconds. So you never know, when did the baby take the first breath, when was the cord cut. But when the Leo, since Leo rules how you look, and you look at his main discussion.
He has to be. He's not a 0 Virgo.
He is definitely Leo. Plus his progressed moon has just gone. His progressed moon has just left Leo and gone into Virgo in the past week or so. So he's definitely Leo. So now you've got a Gemini sun, you've got a moon in Sag, and you've got Leo rising. These are all energies that are blatant. They don't have anything sustaining them or giving them depth or quality. It's all fire. It's all bluster. Now, he's extremely valuable in certain ways, but when you need him in a way that's responsible, in a socially way, where are you getting it from? Where does he care about the United States? Where? He doesn't have a strong Saturn. He doesn't have strong Taurus qualities keeping him bound to the earth. He doesn't have strong Virgo qualities, which keep him attuned to what's right. He's bluster, and dare you question his bluster, because he will attack. I mean, what's he got? 7,000 lawsuits going this way and 5,000 lawsuits going that way? All up in the air, all unsettled. This is all Gemini says. It's all up in the air and unsettled. So the Leo ascendant is extremely dangerous. How does he keep getting away with it? Because of the Jupiter. How does he keep getting away with it? Where is this? This is how he keeps getting away with it. The Jupiter, Chiron, Neptune. He keeps stopping and saying to people, oh yeah, but I love Mexico. And I love women. Oh, and they love me. And people go, oh, you hear that? Okay, I believe it. I mean, come on. Yes.
Rick, I just want to add that I looked up the 30th degree of Leo in the Sabian symbols.
Yeah.
And it's an unsealed letter, has vital and confidential information. And the key word given is wearing your heart on your sleeve, revealing things that shouldn't be revealed, you know. And he certainly does, I think, vomit it out all over the place.
Donald Trump is using the collective to show you how important he is, that he didn't get what mommy should have gave him. Now, this could be on a collective scale, on a much bigger scale in a past life, but he thinks he's so important that the whole collective needs to suffer with him. And this is why he's dangerous. He's got the psyche to bring down the whole planet over one little slight from some leader in North Korea. He will push the button because he thinks the world is him. The world is him and it's not him. Does it make any sense? What do you folks see? You saw his chart. That's what I see. I think he's dangerous because he doesn't have any control. What do you all think?
Hello.
Hello.
I was wondering about the fourth house. He has Scorpio on the fourth, on the cusp. Wouldn't that give him more of a daggers to throw out?
You mean with Pluto ruling Scorpio at the fourth?
Yeah.
Well, one of the good things there, Grace, is that you do have a Scorpio angle. You have 4 fixed angles. You have Taurus at the midheaven. You have Scorpio at the base, and you have Leo and Aquarius. You have the 4 rulers there. The Pluto that is the ruler of that 4th house is hidden in the 12th house of mystery. I think that the Pluto Scorpio here, in this sense, indicates this would be a very difficult reading to do one-on-one with him. What I've discovered when the nadir is heavy like that, it's that he's carrying forth, even unconsciously, some kind of subconscious lineage, cascading pattern that his village had, that his father had,
Okay.
was being passed on through him. When I look at the nadir, I see a lot of patterns like incest, or families that were at war, or families that had a lot of riches. So I think that it means that there's something very deep and unconscious that is driving him. But when I've looked at deeper patterns in his chart, I don't see it. What's so relevant about Trump is this. In September of last year, Jupiter and Neptune were opposite each other. Massively spiritual planets, massive possibility of delusion. And I wrote to everybody.
Yeah.
And I said in this September, you're going to have wonderful grace descend upon you, which if you're ready for is wonderful, or you're going to bite the bullet and chase some guy with brand new Nikes and go behind some comet. What is it, Mr. Applegate? You're going to go, Jupiter Neptune is about cults. So right around that time, we had the positive of Bernie Sanders. We had the delusion of Trump. And that's when it started to divide. And people went, oh, no, this will never happen. Oh, this will never happen. But what the man knows, he's such an opportunist, he even comes out and tells you that if I shoot somebody on the street, you're still going to vote for me. And people go, yeah.
That's exactly right.
I mean, he is symbolic of the collective insanity.
Thank you.
Don't you think? He's the collective insanity. The difference between reality and a reality TV show just isn't much. And if he can fire that person across the table with a close-up on TV, then by God, he could do that to Putin, and he can solve any problem there is just because he says you're fired.
You know,
That's
another
how unreal we've become. And lately, this unreality that we've become has been tested by Saturn. And Saturn's trying to shape this up. And here we speak within hours of a solar eclipse. Just today, the solar eclipse in Virgo is trying to get us to get a grip on this stuff and say, look, this is real and this isn't real. And we better get a grip on what's real and what isn't. Yes, Nancy? You are muted.
Another thing is that when you look at his chart, with the exception of the moon, all his other planets are on that eastern side of the chart. It's all centered around the ascendant, all centered around him. Me.
He does not have the capacity to understand non-me. When I wrote that book, I had such an education. Some signs are obsessed with themselves, period. You could talk about what it should be. You could talk about how you feel, but that's not how it is. Did you see what he said recently about the some catastrophe? And he said within seconds, well, this could be good for me. I mean, who would even think that quickly? That's how he's built. This is just how he's built. Now, please don't go there and ask me, where are his planets? Do they look favorable during the election? Because unfortunately, the planets look very favorable at that time. But I'm not going to go there either, because I think anything can happen. The more important thing is, I think the more important thing is, Americans are really waking up, and we're really seeing how we're getting screwed in so many ways. But we're so lame and we're so apathetic, and we won't get off the couch and do something. You look at films in Belgium and in France and in Germany, these people are on the streets in hundreds of thousands waving flags and banners. We've got to do something to show, no, you're not going to take an EpiPen and charge $800. No, you're not going to do this. No, you're not going to do this. We need to step up and step out. That's what's so frightening about Trump, is what he represents to the collective. In the collective, he is symbolic of us as a people having lost control. We have lost control. That's what I think. How many people do you know? You don't have to name names. How many people do you know that you walk around every day or you work with that you can honestly say it really seems like they're walking around with no center? I know a bunch of them. They're trying to find their center. They had their center. They lost their center. But I really think that that's a big part of it. A lot of people have lost their center. Now, in the old days, it was our center to be religion. Thank God that's changing, because that wasn't real. And now we're trying to change it to be real spirit, with the real God experience inside, which is a whole different story. But I really flipped out today when I realized, just like Ramdas says, he was an opportunist of other countries. He became an opportunist of the country. He became an opportunist of other states. He became an opportunist of other corporations. He became an opportunist of family members. And finally, he has become an opportunist of himself. There is no self. Any thoughts? Gina Maz is being real quiet, got her lips tightly pursed. Any thoughts? Bonnie, anybody? Anybody got thoughts? Any questions on the chart? I mean, I could talk about the chart for days but it's just too much. It's very complex. Does this surprise you tonight? Do these symbols, I'll bet you that the symbols you're seeing tonight verify what you've been thinking.
I have a question, Rick.
When you think of that Venus-Saturn, think of that sad story, and you've all seen it in the movies, I hope only in the movies, where the little boy, little girl is tossed from foster home to foster home. He's not loved, and he goes haywire. He gets to 13. He doesn't care anymore. Nobody's ever loved him. He doesn't care what happens to you. He's going to do what he's got to do. He doesn't care. And he can become very dangerous. And in his own world, he's got it right, in a sense. People have abused him. They've never taken care of what he needed. And this is what's ticking down deep in Mr. Trump. I don't even know if he's aware of it.
I have a question.
Now, let's have any questions you got on this chart this evening. Yeah, Gina?
I'm curious about his relationship to his family, particularly his children, and watching the the convention. They seem to have such admiration for him and drawing on, talking about a lot of his good attributes. So I'm just curious about that. Like, what's going on there?
I do not feel qualified to answer that because I look in the chart and I can see both things, but my basic instinct is that it's mostly lip service.
Because they are, I mean, they don't seem like shallow kids. I mean, especially the daughter, you know, she seems intelligent and her, I don't want to say her own woman, but you know, she seems a strong woman. But at the same time, you know, again, I'm just curious about the influence because he is such a strong individual in terms of, you know, his personality.
Well, I mean, what can you say when he told the press that if we keep having babies and we raise children, that's fine and I'll be there for them and support them and all, but I won't be around day to day. That's what he said. What does that tell you as a child? What does it tell you?
Well, and I guess, I mean, we're assuming that he was like that. I mean, that's the assumption. Is that
I can guarantee it.
Yeah.
I have a
Yeah,
thought.
Nancy?
Well, I don't know whether I'm at, this is more of a question, but I noticed that the ruler of his fifth house of children is Jupiter, which is part of that charismatic conjunction of Jupiter, Chiron, and Neptune, trining his sun and Uranus, his sun-Uranus conjunction. So I'm just wondering whether they're caught up in this illusion of Big Daddy, you know, being so important and whatever.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And you also got to remember something. They're all multimillionaires. I can't know what that's like. I think that's a question that needs to be researched. I will tell you this. In my lifetime, almost all my male friends are Geminis. I have a great time with male Geminis. They're lots of fun. They're lighthearted. It's just this guy, plug in superego and plug in, he's extremely world cosmopolitan. And now the collective is what shows him to run for president. Look what was left. Look what was left if the Republicans did not have Trump. The collective picked him. He took advantage of it. They're screwing us. I'm not going to let them screw us. I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to get our iron jobs back and our metal jobs back. And I'm going to bring coal back and all this. And my God, all the people in the world go, yay, do that, please. And it's not the truth. They're vulnerable. He's an opportunist. Sandy Esch, you've been quiet. I'm going to put you on the spot. See, I'm going to wind up like this and put you on the spot. You're a very bright woman. What do you see?
Well, you know, going back and forth, at first when I seen Donald Trump come on the scene, I thought he was just acting and he really wasn't going to go very far. And then as things progress and he started to gain steam, so to speak, I could see where people were interested in him more as a rebel vote than actually caring for him. It isn't really that they liked him, it's just that he was the alternative. He was their choice just to say, I'm against the system. And I didn't think that was a smart way to use the system. I could see how people were doing it. And then it got to be, well, I think everyone's just seeing the whole system as being so out there. Not just Donald, but the whole Hillary. I mean, the whole thing is just so crazy. I don't know, you know, if anyone can really take it, the election seriously anymore. And I think Donald Trump is I'm finding people are going more towards him just because they're saying it's just so stupid. Why not go with the clown? You know,
Well, my only answer to this is the clown is one little tiny insult from launching a nuclear weapon. That's my answer.
well, I see what yeah, right.
And you see what he does when you say his fingers are short. What's going to happen when somebody insults his family? You know, I mean, the leader of some other country, or the thing is that I think you can safely bet on, he's going to be completely unpredictable in everything he does. He's going to pull a submarine outside of the waters of Israel. He's going to pull some aircraft carrier outside of Ethiopia out in the water, and then change his mind and bring the boat back. I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen. I'm saying there's no basis, and if he cannot, here's the problem with Trump. The Mars and Lena, it's the same problem with Hillary. You're going to treat the world the way you treat yourself. Besides, astrologically, the chart of the leader becomes representative of the chart of everybody. So if he had just attacks no matter what when he perceives an insult, that's dangerous. And with Hillary's got this, I'm on the ivory tower. You will never knock me down. I can do anything I want and just get anything through the slimmest of legalities. She's going to do the same thing too. You're going to treat the world the way you treat yourself, because that's how you succeed. I don't know the answer, Sandy. All I know is that you and I study A Course in Miracles, and if I bet on anything, I'll bet on it. And it's the same book, and I do think, and Liza and I both think, that sleeping in the background, there are lots and lots and lots of wonderful people like you who are making the best of their charts, who are doing healing, who are doing teaching, who are talking, who are joining groups. But, you know, this is all part of it, but I think it's very important, and this is going to go on eBay, and it's going to go on YouTube, and there will be thousands of people watch this, and they will get information about Mr. Trump, and I'll hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. But I certainly gave to you my best honest appraisal without pussyfooting. Other thoughts about the chart? Miss Carla just came in. Charles, your thoughts? Anybody? Does anybody feel like my reading of the chart was just way off?
Rick, I remember you did the chart a half a year ago. Remember when you did this once with Hillary and Trump about a half a year ago before we knew, and you did everybody else's? Here's my intuitive take on it. The powers that be had decided, this collapsed in on him. They said, we're going to take Mr. Trump because he's the clown and he'll rile things up, in the hope that Hillary, they wanted to guarantee a win for Hillary, but they were wrong. And now they don't know what are they going to do. So my concern is Hillary was supposed to be the designated president because she and Obama, that they made that decision. Obama would go first, then Hillary would be, and that was supposed to be with the Bilderberg group who made that decision. I don't know if anybody else knows this. Oops, hello. Uh-oh. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because everything went kind of blank here for a minute. Rick is gone.
Rick will be back in a minute.
Okay, is Eliza there?
Liza's here. Just carry on, guys. He'll be back in a minute. So.
Okay. Anyway, I don't know if anybody has a similar, either heard this or has an intuitive sense about what really was supposed to happen, but it's gone awry for the powers that be. And now they're going to have, my fear is that they're going to, and I think Rick said something too, there's going to be something unsettling that's going to happen that'll throw this whole thing into a whole new, maybe we won't even have an election. Obama might get a third term. Something weird is going to happen is what I think.
Alien communication. I'm just throwing that out there. Alien.
What was that? What was that?
Alien communication.
Alien, yeah. Hey, I have
planet.
my spaceships. They were there again 2 days ago.
Well, it's funny how many of these. I don't know if anybody's noticed. I'm just throwing this out here, but it's funny how if anybody's noticed any all the like news articles that have come out recently about the possibility that maybe like 95 light years away, there's like this civilization that has the structure around a star, and then there's another one that's actually
and the Goldilocks one.
Yeah, so maybe this is October surprise. I don't know.
What I'm starting to realize is this: the symbology of this half-baked, whatever you want to call this Trump movement, has just run in this morning to a solar eclipse in Virgo. And the solar eclipse is lined up with the Jupiter and the Neptune and the Saturn. And Virgos don't go for this kind of campaign. Virgos are the strictest, most down-to-earth, cut your hair short, don't goof off, get to work, show up, get the work done, sensibilities, company men. That energy, that archetype has risen within us in the past few days. And yes, the Trumpites are going to continue waving their Trump banners, but I think it's very likely that if he wins, a lot of people are not going to obey his orders because they got a strong sense inside that, hey, this is just insane. I'm not going to do it. Don't count Bernie yet. Don't count him out yet. It's not mathematically over.
Rick,
yeah, Karen.
Is this maybe why he surrounds himself with people that are supposed to be experts in different areas? I mean, I don't know, but I'm asking because I hear about that. And real quick, John, I don't remember the TV program I was listening to, but they were talking about sounds coming from outer space. And I got interrupted, so I didn't get to hear where they thought it was coming from. So, yeah, there is talk about it.
I'll post the article, but yeah, you probably saw the same thing that I did.
Well, I think it's obvious that in a lighter Gemini kind of way, he does not have depth of knowledge of what's happening, if he even knows where Yugoslavia is or where India is or wherever. I think that he's hiring these other people to disseminate the work and let them take care of it. He wants to, what is the word he uses in every sentence? Every sentence has the word deal. He wants to make the deals. We're screwed because we didn't make good deals. I can make better deals than that. We need to make deals. He sees it all as business transaction. And I think he's got these other ones to deal with other types of policies. Let's hear from our senior correspondent, Charles Canaris. We haven't heard a word out of you, Charles. I'm going to unmute you. And what do you think's going on with all this crazy talk?
It's interesting. I find it pretty complicated because in a way, you know, it's interesting to hear your perspective because in a way, there's a large number of people who want to believe that we need change, and as a result are leaning toward the Trump camp. I get concerned about the fact that I don't really understand what his core values really are, and when I look at the behaviors that I see play out in the way that he operates on a day-to-day basis, it suggests to me that there's a lack of clarity around what he really does stand for. On the other hand, when you look at Hillary, there's a lot of people who think that she knows how to play the game and kind of make things work in the political environment as well. And my sense is that neither one of them really have whatever the ideal of what's needed right now to be able to bring the answer to play. And so it's very complicated because, you know, unfortunately, I talk to people, and those that are kind of I use the word fundamental in their views around things are going to lean one party or the other. So it's the people in the middle who are struggling with it that are the ones that are going to decide the election one way or the other. And I just wonder whether there would be another choice. I don't see it. I think it's going to be one of the two of them. And I really don't know exactly how it's going to play out. We'll see over the course of the next.
Well, I think you are right. I think that you could stare till your eyes turn green or whatever. I don't think you're going to see a central platform from Trump. I don't think he has one.
Yeah.
He is what is opportunistic at this time. And I think that's part of that's just natural with him. And part of it is learning. But what do they say? Dance with the one that brung you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Patricia Sharp is a very fine astrologer. What up in New England, up in Maine, what are you all thinking up in there? You get a little southern you all. What are you doing up there?
Well, first of all, we're distracted by that idiot governor that we have. Trying to get rid of him. And
he's a Libra. He's a Libra. I did his chart last night.
But have you looked at his chart? Does he have Uranus out here in the 11th house?
He's trying to protect. He's got all his marbles in his 10th house or 10th harmonic. He's trying to protect that Libra sense of, I've climbed all this way up the social ladder. There's nowhere to go except totally collapse. And he, like I said, Libra is the Aries of the second half of the zodiac. And he's got nowhere to go but collapse. And he's refusing to do so.
Right, right.
What happened to him is Pluto hit his sun. Pluto hit his sun. And a lot of Libras are unable to shift into their emotions. And the Pluto's hurting him because he doesn't have emotions. That's why he's crashing.
Okay, yeah. So
he doesn't have true empathy for other people. And when you are that way, Pluto will stop you. What do you think of the Trump chart that we did tonight?
Well, it's fascinating to me. I have basically ignored Trump. Like, if I don't acknowledge him, he isn't there and he'll go away. The manifestation extreme. So, but it is a fascinating chart. And, you know.
Arnold, did you learn from the chart tonight?
Yes, I did. It was very illuminating, truly. It just confirms a lot of stuff and gives good reason.
It's very hard to say this to you, but when you do this for a long time, your mind goes, there's the problem. And the problem is the Venus, Saturn, and Cancer. And he has been, whatever you want to call it, real or not, he has been bruised emotionally. The big mouth, the screaming, is he's bitching about it. You have hurt me. You don't treat me fair. You can't come on my show. You didn't treat me fair. You're not being fair. I won't go on. And that's the little 9-year-old boy that's screaming. And that's, in my opinion, that's all that's happened.
And I can't help it, but those planets are on my Pluto, and I just look at it and say, tough shit, kid.
Of course. Of course. He has a way of dragging them on.
Rick, did you do his chart for November for the election day? Does it show like...
Yeah, it showed some very favorable things on his side, but I don't I don't put a lot of weight on that.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Because the most favorable thing in reality might be that he loses and he gets a big reprieve. So you got to watch out for astrologers to try to predict events.
Okay.
Did you hear that? I heard, of course, this is purely speculative, but the people are saying, you know, he has pumped up his media coverage to such an extent that he's going that he'll lose and then start his own network, you know, and just capitalize on the whole thing.
See, as long as you're giving him, and I mean collectively, as long as we are giving him attention, he does not have to face his emptiness. And that's the entire story. I think. Here.
Have you done the same thing on Hillary?
I've already done Hillary. It's already on YouTube. It's already been looked at.
How do I
every time? It's about 90 minutes. Go ahead and check it out.
How do I find it? You know, I'm not good.
Just go to my name on YouTube and you'll see it listed there.
Okay.
It's the first one you'll see. And most people agreed with it. Same format as here. Hillary's chart is very, very different. Hillary is doing everything to hide the fact that she wants to be queen of the universe. And that's that simple, in my opinion. She's a smart woman. But they're really different. But the thing about Hillary is her Jupiter is so strong, she just keeps getting away with stuff. She just keeps getting away with it. And you know, Jupiter's got a reputation for that. But how long can that keep happening? Okay, we're all done. Any final questions?
Rick, I just want to mention something I read the other day. I'm not sure how true it was, but it was a report about some military people who are planning on basically not allowing the election to go off as planned, because they're saying that the last, I don't know, 4 elections or something like that have been rigged. And so we haven't had a fair election. And from what I heard, now this is just speculative, but they're saying that Al Gore might be put in as an interim president since he was the one that was last truly elected. And then I heard people say that no, instead they're going to let Obama ride out the interim term.
Obama's too tired.
And so I've been hearing different things, but it seems like from what in general, most all of them say the election is just not going to come off.
Well, I sure don't know, and that is wild. Isn't that wild? What happened to Pat Paulson when you needed him?
I understand that part of the problem is there are some states, see, Florida has a fail-safe system. And y'all can laugh about it, but we have a ballot that you mark like an SAT, and they run it through a machine. And I know somebody that works there, and every day they count, in early balloting, they count the paper ballots to make sure that they have a corresponding number that's been proven. However, if there's a question about it, they can actually go through and count by hand, God knows how long it would take, the paper ballots. But some states only have online, like digital or whatever, they just have a screen that they punch, and there is no way to go back and track those.
You have the state of the hanging Chad.
That's why they got rid of it. But I watched those too. And I will tell you guys something from having lived in the state at the time. The news media is actually what caused, and y'all are not going to want to hear this, but they called it before the polls in the Panhandle closed because of them being on Central Time. And there is a huge, at that time, group in Pensacola that would never have voted for Gore. And so that's what caused the confusion. And I remember it. That's why they came out and said that they couldn't call the polls until they couldn't call an election for a state until every single poll was closed. I'm sure you all remember some of that happening after that event. And that's why, because they either were trying to get people to stay home, and there was a lot of, oh God, the news and the confusion and the whole bit. But there's a whole part of the state, if you look at the map of Florida, just right outside of Tallahassee, the rest of that state is on Central Time, and they called it before the Central Time polls had closed and their votes were cast. And that whole Panhandle area is a lot of, at that time it was very Republican. So
Okay.
for what it's worth.
All right. Well, we're going to bring things up to wrap. We're a little bit late. I wanted to mention to you that all of this is free, and I bring this to you free, and I'm giving the book away free. But if you want to donate, I would really appreciate all donations. I put it into the chat where you could donate. Anything would be appreciated, because I do have bills to pay and I do like to eat. And the place, if you want to make a small donation that would be appreciated online, is starself.com/donations. Thanks to John. Thank you, everybody. It's been very good. I'll try to keep these things lively and topical. I'll see you next week at Thursday, 8 o'clock, and I'll be announcing what the topic will be. And we'll see you then. Have a good week.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.